talk about one orb here as DPS. So as many of you know, I have been testing a lot of things. I decided to play Orb Dagger, but I want to talk about one orb as DPS because I did play it quite a bit. I tried in GVGs, in ZVZs, in Rifts, Booms. You can see I have put some clips here. They're gonna take like a few minutes, but the clips gonna keep rolling. And I want to talk a little bit about what I think of the class. The first thing I thought was it's very similar to Invocator / Liberator, which is a problem on PvP. Even though you can build them and with proper party peel, you can do some pretty big destruction even more on ZVZs / Siege setups. Places that you have high ground or that you can play that have a lot of enemy players. Is a really strong class for that position. It's similar to the Staff Orb as well. It has a lot of big AoE possibilities, so it's a really strong ZVZ / massive class. However, it has the same problems as the Invocator and Liberator, more specifically the Invocator. And the Oracle, I think, Enigma is the name of the Staff Orb, because it is a magic class, and just for being a full magic class, silences and binds and things like that from the Shadow Step, the daggers, do ruin you. They are very hard to play against. Even if you build bind resistance to survive like the first bind, you still get silence, and if you get silence, you cannot do anything. So if you're silenced, you cannot do parries, you cannot protect yourself, peel yourself, you cannot hit back, you're just a moving target. So that's one of the biggest issues with this class. Every time you make a full magic class, this always happens because you're very vulnerable. So I was trying to play it, and I was trying to play it with my evasion gear because I used to play one dagger, right? So the tests were really bad and really rough. You can see on the clips I managed to get some combos off, and sometimes I would get 1, 2, sometimes even 3 kills, but it wasn't really fantastic. So I was really struggling to test the class, and I would need to change all my gear and invest in a bunch of different things to see if the class would work properly. And I don't have like the time and the Lucent for that. I'm sorry. Plus, I don't really like to play endurance. I never like to play endurance because I like evasion. I like playing evasion because I don't get my combos interrupted. Because when you decide to play a class combo, a class that has combos, you need time. You need like a gap to be able to execute your combo. So not having evasion makes the gap really rough because you get interrupted the entire time by stands, by hooks, by everything, right? So it's really rough to play endurance combo class. And the one orb has a very annoying thing, because when you're playing staff one, for example, you're mostly playing with the staff skills. So you're using the meteors, so it's a one cast skill or fireball, and then it does the damage, and that's it. But when you're playing with the one for curses, you need to properly combo your curses. You need to stack them in the rotation, then spread and explode. So there is a huge combo behind it, and the orb follows the same method. You need to place your orbs; they are slow. You need to cast for them to explode. Then you need to wait for them to collapse, and then after collapse, you have to replace the orbs to then use the lasers to do damage. So you can see the idea here is like, they are both combo classes and they are both not main DPS classes, because if you think about it, the one was for healers and the orb was for healers. That's their main intent on start. That's basically the idea behind them. So when you're picking them and turning them into DPS, they become combo classes. And when you're using two combo classes together, you need a lot of time to put them to work. And that's a big problem when the time to kill in the game is 0.1 second by GS and Expos and even infiltrators, right? So you're gonna just be melting and dying before being able to ever pull your combo. So that was a really big issue, and it can be a skill issue. I'm definitely not gonna deny that. But that's my first feeling when playing the one orb. I felt really useless. I felt like I was just there to be upkilled, to be picked off. Of course, my build was not even close to ideal, but I couldn't execute what I wanted to do with the class. but I will say I like the combos behind the class. So what I did, I got the chance to speak to a player called Lisa. She's from another guild now in my alliance, and she's someone that I admire a lot. She used to play one Dagger, Darkblight, then she moved to Liberator, I'm quite sure, then to Spellblade, and now she's trying one Orb, and she says she's having some decent success, so we exchanged some ideas. And that actually gave me a lot of like insight on what could be done. So the things I was trying to do was build heavy because curses, right? And then trying to see if I could fit any endurance. And I wasn't really happy with the status, the health, the endurance, the the status overall. I wasn't really enjoying it. And what she told me is she does max HP, skill damage resist, and critical damage reduction, and that's how she plays with a proper party and pill setup. So that's still a thing that you will need for sure. With more of the defensive side of the one as well, if I'm not mistaken. So that was very interesting, and then I tried to make some other builds with it, and I made a quest log. Be aware that I'm not recommending that you follow my quest log. I just did that because I was trying to Theorycraft and see what are the possibilities behind the one orb, but I didn't execute it, I didn't buy it, I didn't invest into it, I didn't test it in endgame, so I don't know how it's gonna perform. That's why this video is not labeled build or guide, it's a Theorycraft and early thoughts of what I have played and experienced from the class so far. I personally really think it has high potential, like mega high potential, even more with the E.Tevent Orb. The E.Tevent Orb actually makes Curse Explosions viable because it reduces the debuff resistance of the enemy, right? Therefore, your curses will last longer, therefore, you will do more damage. So it enables Curse Bombing to do more damage again. So it's a big thing. However, it's like I said, it's really hard to play, and I don't know if just with the right endurance, the right HP, or skill damage resist, or crit damage resistance, it's gonna be very good to play or viable to play in the PvP at the end game or mid to end game, or depending on small to medium to large scale PvP. I don't have the data, I don't have the build, I don't have the gameplay tested to confirm on that. So again, I made a quest log, I'm gonna include that in the description in case you wanna pick and check if you find it interesting, or change to something you think it's better or fits your playstyle / niche better. But I'm not recommending that you follow it unless you're ready for the risk. It might suck, it might be great, I don't know, I couldn't test it, it's too expensive for me to test everything. I'm sticking to to Orb Dagger. So the Orb Dagger I'm testing right now. I'm going to Siege, to GVGs again, like with proper build, because I want to see if it can do something, what it can do, and what's its potential. I already invested over 15,000 Lucent on it. So I'm going to be bringing a full guide for the Orb Dagger. However, the one Orb for DPS, I definitely am just going to stay for now on the Theorycraft and early thoughts. So again, this video is not a guide, it's just me ranting and rambling about my experience with the class. So anyway, bringing back Lisa, now that I put the disclaimer. The way Lisa was playing is, like I said, on this style already. So she has a lot of HP, 35,000 HP, a lot of skill damage resistance, and a lot of crit damage resistance, upwards to like 40 to 50%. And the rest she puts entirely on heavy, as far as I understood, and some crit and crit damage, and she plays with it. She gives up entirely on hit, which makes sense because one orb has a big problem, huge problem. It doesn't have any PvP passives or actives, in the way that hit and evasion is not on any of the free status that they get compared to some other classes, let's say like that. So you cannot reach high evasion, you cannot reach high hit. So what you do, you give up on the hit, you give up on the evasion, and you focus on the damage. So that's what she did, and she says she's having decent success, and I believe her. So that's why I decided to, give the class more of a chance. I think it has huge potential with the E.Tevent Orb for late game. But I'm not ready to invest on something that is not evasion, like I said already. I'm just repeating myself here. So I just want to talk a little bit about like how you should play it. In my opinion, my combos are what I tested and I liked. So I see three ways of playing. Those are alternatives, let's say like that. The first way of playing is let's say there's two different instances. You can go full damage buffs on it, so you turn your blast barrier into not blast barrier, I forgot the name, but angelic blast, whatever. You know the buffs of the one and the orb. You can play them as offensive or play as defensive. So that's up to you and your party. If you're dying too much, play with the defensive buffs. If you're having a lot of space to play with defensive buffs. It's pretty simple. Then after this style of choice on the gameplay part, you need to think about how you want to actually play the class on the fighting part. So the way I was playing first was trying to use the orbs as a setup. So what I would do, I would put orbs or send the 3 orbs and then collapse supernova on them. And then while the enemies were pulled or weakened and slowed with supernova, I would try to do a curse combo on top of it to do like the damage of the supernova on top of the curse, the bomb damage, which I think is gonna be the main way to play this class in the end game with the E.Tevent orb, because it's gonna do a lot of damage with the curses. But if you don't have the E.Tevent orb, this style really falls apart quite a bit. It's still playable. I got some combo kills as you saw before, but it's not ideal. And the other style is just using the one for the buffs slash defensives or offensives and using the orb for the damage. That means playing similar to the Orb Dagger. You're gonna just be using orb for the damage, so you're gonna be doing Superstar Collapse, then placing orbs, and during the using the orbs to do the damage with like your other skills, the laser beams that go pew pew or other things like that. You're just gonna use the orb for the damage instead of the curses. And the last style is similar to, it's very different actually. It's what Lisa has been playing and what she told me, and I actually found it interesting. You're going to be playing with your orb uptime 24/7. That means you're going to be placing 3 orbs, and you're going to be playing with the Milky Way, which is the skill that moves the orbs, and trying to not let the orb despawn, and playing your range and playing around your opportunities. That means you're gonna be, the way she described to me is like Orianna on League of Legends. If you don't know, it's a character that has an orb, and you usually play around that orb to like zone around it and peel around it. It's the same thing with the Milky Way. You're gonna be placing 3 orbs and using the Milky Way as your Orianna Q to move the orb around to have a zone. So the orb you're gonna be using to increase your range, because in case you don't know, the orb basically doubles your range with the laser beam. So if you have 30 meters, effectively you actually have 60 meters. So you have 20 meters, you have 40 meters. So you can see range is very important for this class slash this playstyle, because you can place the orb very further away and shoot with the orb from that further away. That means you have almost no risk of getting targeted, unless you get flanked, of course. You're playing from a very safe position. And in case you need to self-peel, self-protect other than your defensive buffs, you can also pull the orb stored you with the Milky Way and then play around the lasers on top of you, or like supernova on top of you, or just, you know, shields on top of you. There's a bunch of ways that you can play depending on the size of the PvP or the situation that you're in. So that's the way Lisa plays. She plays with the Milky Way, moving the orb as a zoning tool, similar to the Orianna, like I said, analogy. And it's very interesting. So I think those are the 3 types of gameplay that I think is the curse bombing mixed with the CC of the orb, the fully orb bomb, and the more, let's say, safe slash long play with the orb in the one. I think those 3 playstyles work really well. I think the orb one playstyle doing the damage with the orb is the worst one, because I would rather just play with other tools instead of one. If I'm just gonna do damage with the orb, I would rather play Orb Dagger, which is what I'm doing right now basically. If I'm gonna do the damage with the curse, you're probably gonna need the E.Tevent orb. So this third playstyle is the one that I would recommend, because seems to be the one that working the best for Lisa. And just like I said, you just use your skills mostly to play range and try to play from further away. That's about it. I don't want to stall too much. This is too long and doesn't really have a proper guide or full content. But I hope this shares some potential or some of my experiences in case you want to risk on tier 3 to go for 1 Orb DPS. Be aware you're probably going to struggle to find a proper guild to give you a chance, and you're going to be spending a lot of lucent to risk not having a decent PvP class by the end of the season or the tier. So go slowly, let's say like that. You know, try to play maybe something that is more established already, and then as if when someone that is investing, losing or risking finds some success, then follow that person. Like I said, I just put my build, but it's not a guide, it's just theory crafting, and I didn't put in practice. Just it's not like the one dagger that I had practice, and it's not like the orb dagger that I'm putting on practice right now on my tier 3 build. But that's about it. Thank you for watching. See ya.